Funding for Lawmakers comes from
the University of West Georgia in Carrollton, ensuring a better life for Georgians in the 21st century. More than 100 programs of study prepare students for successful careers in the critical professions of education and nursing, as well as business and the liberal arts. The Georgia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of Georgia's business community, over 4,000 members strong, working with lawmakers for over 90 years to make sure that our state remains a place where companies thrive.
and by supporters of Georgia Public Broadcasting. Thank you.
Coming up on Lawmakers, the Senate passes legislation to create a T-SPLOST, a bill that would allow 11th and 12th graders to move on to college or technical school while earning their diplomas. And our leadership interview series continues with House Majority Leader Jerry Keene. Those stories and more are coming up next.
Live from Atlanta, this is Lawmakers. Here are your anchors, Nwandi Lawson and David Zelski.
Good evening, everyone. Also on tonight's broadcast, two pieces of Senate legislation aimed at helping those affected by home foreclosure.
And a measure is approved by a committee that would require seatbelt use in pickup trucks. But first, our top story tonight, the Senate moves forward with transportation funding plans. Well, after 3 years of studying, drafting, and debating, the T-SPLOST bill finally passes the Senate. Senate Transportation Chairman Jeff Mullis spearheaded SB 39 and SR 44, a bipartisan regional transportation tax plan voted on by the people, which could pave the way for road, rail, bridges, and infrastructure projects all across the state. Both chambers agree that traffic is bad, but when it comes to a solution, there's been gridlock.
This bill having failed to receive the constitutional majority.
But Senate Transportation Chair Jeff Mullis says this year's plan, though voted on region by region, is in fact a statewide plan.
This bill will generate up to $850 million in a metro area alone each year, and up to $1.2 billion for the entire state. The public is strongly in favor of doing something for transportation.
SB 39 in its current form has support from both Democrats and Republicans in the Senate. Democratic Senators Doug Stoner and Kasim Reed co-sponsored the legislation.
For the first time, we're beginning to lose corporate relocations to the city of Atlanta and the state of Georgia at an alarming rate, to sister cities like Orlando, but more importantly like Charlotte, who have shown the will to do what we were not willing to do last year.
Particularly for us here in Metro Atlanta, we have a fragile coalition of counties and cities that are ready to work together, who support this concept that we're proposing today. My concern is that if we fail to, one, pass this today or eventually pass a piece of legislation this year to deal with transportation, that coalition will not survive. And my other concern is that this issue will get swept into the election year come 2010.
Lieutenant Governor Casey Cagle has also been a proponent of the regional T-SPLOST bill, and like Senator Stoner, says SB 39 needs to pass this year, even though the measure won't be on the ballot until 2010.
It's critically important that we act this year, and it's not just simply the issue of having it on the ballot in 2010. It really is sending a message to every corporation in America and in the world that we are putting a proactive stance in place to really solve the congestion problems that are in Metro Atlanta.
Now, Senator John Weil successfully amended SB 39 by adding a measure that gives project control to the counties if municipalities within that county make up less than 50% of the population. SB 39 and SR 44 now go over to the House. Also in the Senate, legislation which creates a life without parole sentence passed the Senate today. Senate Judiciary Chairman Preston Smith goes through the specifics of Senate Bill 13.
This bill would allow for a life without parole sentence as an eligible option for a prosecutor at the front end of a murder prosecution. That is to say, the prosecutor could look at the facts and for various reasons decide that it might not be a case where the death penalty could be sought, or perhaps not even ought to be sought, but yet it is a case where the defendant should not ever get back out on the streets. And in that case, the prosecutor could say, We're not seeking the death penalty. We can't seek the death penalty, but we refuse to allow this person back on the streets who we believe will be a permanent danger to the community. We believe they should be locked up for their lifetime with no possibility of parole. And with the passage of Senate Bill 13, the prosecutor will be able to prosecute that case, seek a life without parole sentence from the beginning, without going through all of the procedures of a death penalty or capital case, and ultimately reach that result without having to back into it years and perhaps millions of dollars down the road.
Senate Bill 13 ended up passing unanimously 54-0 and now goes to the House.
Some lawmakers want to give parents and high school students more options when it comes to choosing a career path after leaving school. Lawmakers Valerie Edwards reports live from the Capitol. Valerie.
In Wandy, the measure is called Move On When Ready, and for 11th and 12th graders in public school who are ready to leave high school behind, the bill allows students to transfer to a college or technical school. There, they can finish high school and at the same time earn credit toward a higher degree. Representative Jan Jones of Milton modeled her bill on a similar program already in place in Minnesota.
Well, I think there's a growing recognition that in this very competitive global economy that we have, folks expect choice and different opportunities in every other aspect of their life, and public education must adapt and do the same thing if we truly want to serve students. And I could imagine that just any variety of students that for whatever reason just want to take a different path, but they still get at the end point, the same end point, they just a different path to get there. And that's what I hope this does.
Georgia has made some progress in recent years. Take a look at these charts from the group, the Georgia Partnership for Excellence in Education. And you can see from 2005 through 2008, the number of public school dropouts in Georgia has decreased incrementally. So things are looking up somewhat. But take a look at this second chart, and you'll notice that the high school graduation rate here at home is nearly 10 points behind the national average. Move On When Ready has the backing of Governor Sonny Perdue and is one of a number of pieces of legislation we'll see this session aimed at giving parents and students more options when it comes to education. Reporting live, I'm Valerie Edwards for Lawmakers.
Thanks so much, Valerie. In other news, Senate Republicans and Democrats are crafting revisions to the Georgia Fair Lending Act to address the foreclosure crisis. Senator Vincent Ford is one of 4 Democrats sponsoring Senate Bill 54.
We had a chance in 2003 to pass a bill that could have prevented much of the impact of the subprime mortgage meltdown that's occurred in the last year and a half.
Among the provisions of SB 54 is the restoration of assignee liability to the law, meaning financial institutions remain responsible for loans even after they sell them.
It's, very basic principle. If I steal a car and sell it to you, you're a thief too. Doesn't make the transaction any better.
Senator Ford discounts opposition to the measure.
Remember, these are the same people that got us in this mess who are saying we shouldn't do anything at all. So we have to be very careful. They're getting bailout money from Washington.
On the other side of the aisle, Senator Bill Hamrick enjoys bipartisan support for SB 57. The measure requires new deeds for foreclosed properties to be filed in a timely manner.
This would help identify who the true owner has become in this process where we have so many homes changing hands as a result of foreclosures.
The bill also allows renters with valid leases to remain in their homes for up to 60 days after a foreclosure.
It just gives them a reasonable amount of time, we believe, with this bill to get themselves together, make some arrangements that obviously they didn't know they were going to have to make because they may not have been aware that the owner was not paying the mortgage and that they were about to be told to leave by a new owner.
Senator Hamrick says the bill has very little opposition, with the exception of a few controversial provisions.
The bill also has some language that addresses fair lending. There's a lot more opposition to that because of concerns about how that affects the market for mortgage loans, and so that'll be the more difficult part of the bill, and we'll have to work through some issues there also.
Both pieces of legislation are in the Senate Banking and Financial Institutions Committee, which Senator Hamrick also chairs.
Georgia ranks 5th in the nation when it comes to people filing for bankruptcy, and Senator Ed Tarver of Augusta took the well today to explain why people going through bankruptcy may need to be considered for additional homestead increases.
I had the pleasure of chairing the Senate Study Committee on homestead exemptions for the purposes of bankruptcy. And as we talk about all of the difficult issues that we have to face this session, the budget, the foreclosure rates, predatory lending, I want to ask that you consider bankruptcy and the circumstances that many Georgians are finding themselves in during these difficult financial times. As you consider the legislation, that you will join with me in bringing about some type of increase in the amount of the bankruptcy homestead exemption that will enable more Georgians to keep their homes and maintain their homes, even though they may be faced with difficult financial situations.
One homestead exemption amendment is moving forward at the Capitol, and if that bill is passed, it would double the amount of statewide homestead exemptions. Lawmakers Brittany Evans is here with the details. Brittany.
Thanks, Nwandi. This afternoon, Senate Bill 83 was given a due pass by the Senate Finance Committee. Currently, the homeowner's tax exemption is $2,000. That's the same amount that was proposed back in the 1930s when the Homestead Exemption Act became law. With the current bill's passage, the exemption would increase to $4,000. One of the bill's sponsors, Senate Majority Leader Chip Rogers, explains why the amendment is necessary.
Today is the first Tuesday of the month, and if you went to any courthouse in any county in the state of Georgia, you saw hundreds, and in some cases, maybe in Fulton County or Cobb County, thousands of homes that have been foreclosed on. It's about time that we put the perspective of the taxpayer and the homeowner first, worry about government later. Government needs money to run, but at the end of the day, when people are losing their homes, we need to be in the position to help them in any way possible. And this particular legislation is a referendum question. So if there's somebody opposed to this, they can make a case to the voters, but at least the voters ought to have the chance to correct a mechanism that has never been changed.
And as Senator Rogers mentioned there, the decision will be up to the public by means of a special election. Those concerned with the bill, including Clint Mueller from the Association County Commissioners of Georgia, talked about the effect on local governments who would have to make cuts to make up for the exemption increase.
From our perspective, we're very concerned about what the position this puts our local elected officials in, and having to make additional cuts in their budget at a time when we all I think, state and local elected officials are in difficult times trying to address the budget shortfalls that we have right now.
SB 83 moves on from the Senate Finance Committee to the Rules Committee, which will choose whether or not to put it on the Senate calendar.
All right, thank you, Brittany. The Senate Finance Committee also gave a due pass to SB 143, which mandates the funding of homeowner tax relief grants. There is one caveat, though. The funding will only come if there's a surplus in the budget. A formula for that surplus was outlined, and now the bill moves on to the Rules Committee.
Well, the use of seatbelts in pickup trucks could soon be required if Senate Bill 5 is adopted and signed into law. That legislation received a due pass from the Senate Public Safety Committee this afternoon. Lawmakers Tiana Fernandez is live at the Capitol with that story. Tiana.
Yes, and Nwandi, currently Georgia is the only state with a primary seatbelt law that exempts drivers of pickup trucks from wearing seatbelts. Feeling that pickup trucks are commonly given to teenagers as their first car, Senator Don Thomas is determined to make this bill become law.
Failure to use a seatbelt contributes more to fatalities than any other single traffic safety-related behavior.
After Senator Thomas outlined the changes to the bill, he invited supporters to the committee floor to show how they are affected by the current legislation. One of the supporters was the director of the Governor's Office of Highway Safety, Bob Dallas, who presented a chart with statistics of truck driver accidents.
We have seen an increase in pickup truck deaths in the state consistently. They account for 17% of our crash deaths, yet only represent 14% of the vehicles on the road. In the rural areas, that number is even higher. And when you look at our rural road crash death rates, it's twice that of our urban areas.
Atlanta Metro Manager of AAA South, Mike Keeley, also showed his support by reiterating Senator Thomas's belief that including truck drivers in the bill is the best solution for Georgia drivers.
It just makes common sense in regard to the most effective way to prevent injury and death in a motor vehicle is to buckle up.
And Senate Bill 5 did pass the committee without opposition and will now move to Senate rules. Reporting live, I'm Tiana Fernandez for Lawmakers.
Thanks for that report, Tiana. In other news, our Lawmakers Leadership series of interviews continues this evening with House Majority Leader Jerry Keene. We began by talking about the House Transportation Plan.
Transportation in Georgia is a statewide problem. If we take a regional approach, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to have a statewide plan and the funds necessary to implement it. But the exciting part of it to me was to see a true statewide plan for the first time in a long, long time to really get Georgia moving again on the ground.
Well, unfortunately, we keep hearing about the declining revenues here in the state and, of course, obviously across the country as well. I'm wondering if you could kind of help us to understand how the House is working through its budget issues at this point.
Well, it's the biggest challenge that we faced, certainly since we've been in the majority, but more than that, it's the biggest financial crisis of our adult life. And it is not an easy challenge. Our revenues have declined. We don't know where the bottom is. You know, it would be good to know if you're halfway down the slope or all the way down the slope. But we're budgeting based on revenue projections for the big budget going into next year that the economists have given us. We still have the amended budget to deal with, which I think is going to be the most difficult of the two, because we're into this fiscal year, revenues are still declining, and we have some obligations to meet there. The challenge is to identify the priorities that are essential to state government, and therein lies the debate in the legislature, because what may be a priority to you or I may be different to someone else, and that's what the debate process is about. But that's what we have to do, is in these very difficult times, identify essential services, and other things that are good and that perhaps are needed may have to wait. I know businesses are doing that all over Georgia, households are doing that, and you know, it may be time to replace the carpet, or it may be time to paint, but you know, you may just have to put it off to next year. And I think in state government, there are going to be a lot of those things we're going to have to put off to next year.
You know, a lot of us are looking as well to see just how long will the session need to last in order to answer these questions. What is your guess on that?
Well, I think we have another challenge there. We want to move quickly, get our business done and get out of town. One, to save money to the taxpayer so that we're not here a long time. But the other side of that is watching what's going on in Washington and looking at monies that may be coming back to the states. And right now, none of us know what that is. As you know, the House up there has passed a bill, the Senate is now debating. We don't know when a final bill will be produced, voted on, and money's released. Then the next part of that is how much of that money will we really be able to use in the budget, or will it be targeted to other special projects? So we're trying to be a little cautious in how fast we go. So we're having that debate now. As you know, we're meeting every day, Monday through Friday. We're moving along at a pretty good clip. But I think the time is approaching where we may need to save a day or two here or there to see what's going on in Washington. Because if money comes down to the state that we can use to help balance the budget, then that would mean we might not have to cut a program or a service over here that we otherwise might have to do. So I think what we need to do is balance that a little bit, slow it down, not stop, as we did a couple of years ago during the S-chip situation. But I think we can begin to slow down after this week just a little bit, but we'll see how that goes.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Representative Jerry Keene.
Thank you.
And Representative Keene also told me that House Resolution 1, capping property tax increases, would be back on the House floor pending a few technical changes.
Senate Democratic leader Robert Brown took the well today to express concern for how some people have been reacting to a bill from Senator Seth Harp, which merges 2 historic black colleges with other nearby state colleges, basically trimming 4 colleges down to 2. Senator Brown explains.
A resolution has been introduced that would affect the institutions of Savannah State, Albany State, Dalton, and Armstrong. There's been a lot of discussion about these resolutions, this resolution rather, but I wanted to point out something that I think is important for us to remember. In addressing this issue that has been brought to us, I want us to be very careful not to get into a situation where we are questioning the motives, the intent, the racial politics of the person who is bringing this, and in this case, specifically the senator from the 29th. I know that there has been a lot of discussion about what his motives may be. I've also know that apparently a lot of people haven't even read the resolution, because a lot of the things that are being attributed to about the resolution, in fact, are not there. So I want this to get a fair hearing. I also want to commend the senator from the 29th and the senator from the 10th, who've gotten together and I understand are going to be bringing another version of what was originally brought to us by the senator from the 29th that will put us in a position so that we can, in a very calm manner, consider some of the issues that have been brought forth by the senator from the 29th.
Now, I talked to Senator Harp today about this bill, SB 84, which he said is still in committee and they're working on it and may come to the floor sometime next week. Now, in other Senate news from today, Senator Gail Buckner took the well to introduce a code of ethics bill for school systems.
No student from any other community should ever be impacted by elected or appointed school board members that either don't understand their purpose or, even worse, they choose to pursue their own personal agendas. It is past time that we address school board ethics. That is why I have submitted Senate Bill 36, a short and simple bill that cuts to the chase and mandates that school boards in this state adopt a code of ethics. They are then further mandated to review this policy annually and report back to the citizens about their findings.
Now, Senator Buckner added that this would probably be the first of many school ethics bills expected this session.
The House today took up only one bill, but Representative Mickey Chanel says House Bill 49 will support health care in Georgia.
We have a shortage of physicians in this state. Georgia ranks 39th in the U.S. in terms of a number of doctors per 100,000 people. What this legislation does is enables the Georgia Board for Physician Workforce to apply for and solicit and accept donations, gifts, and contributions from any source. Right now, they basically have the state funding allocation, and what this does is allows them to get money from private sources if somebody chooses to donate to them. I think it's certainly appropriate in these difficult financial times if they can gin up some other money. I think it's a great idea, and that's what it does.
Give us a specific example of what they would do with the money if they were to receive it, and the follow-up question would be, where is accountability?
If they are able to gin up some money, they would disperse that money along the guidelines of what they're currently enabled to do. We're not giving them any new ability to do any different things than they already